Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today we're going to be working on something a little bit different from my channel, but we're going to be doing a little bit of fabrication work, I guess you could say. I purchased a kit for a welding cart for my Lincoln Electric welders. I have both a TIG welder as well as a MIG welder, and right now they've just kind of been sitting over on this little plastic cart. Very cumbersome, not really set up right. And what I ended up doing was I purchased a kit from ZT Fabrication over at alacarte.com. I got a link down here to their website if you're interested in looking, but they make these custom kits for all kinds of different welders that are out there. And basically they send you the pieces and you weld it up yourself. And that's what we're going to be doing today. So Paul over there at ZT Fab, I've actually got several pieces from him in the past, some different things around the shop for organization and so forth. Makes a great product. He is one of the in our little YouTube creator community as well. I think they got a YouTube channel over there that you can check out. But I purchased their kit for the Lincoln Garage Pack, which is basically the welding set that I've got. And we're going to be putting that together today, doing some welding. So let me zoom in here, kind of show you the parts that they sent and look at the instructions, and we will get started on putting this thing together. I ordered this kit online a couple of weeks ago, and it arrived probably a week or two after I made my order. And it has actually been sitting here at the shop for a couple of weeks. I just haven't had time to do anything with it. I unpacked the box and you can kind of see the contents. They basically have designed these things. They go in there, they've got a CNC machine that cuts out all the pieces. They've got the benders and the punches and stuff to do all the stuff here. And when you unpack it, it is pretty much all ready to put together. And I went to their website, downloaded the instructions here on how to do that, and we'll get started on this. It does have a little bit of surface rust on it, just from probably where it's been sitting and being shipped across the country. Nothing major at all. And my plan for this is after I get it put together, I'm going to send it out to a local place that does powder coating, and they're going to sandblast it anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. It'll get cleaned up, and it'll come back looking really nice. So without further ado, I'm going to go to step one, and we're going to start seeing if we can get this thing put together. So the first step is we've got the base that this is on, and there is these little side panels that get welded on the side here. Now, to make this a little bit easier, what I did is I've got this picked up so that it's at the right height where I'm not fumbling around with it too much. I took some 1, 2, 3 blocks here, and then I've got this little kit that comes from Fireball Tool. It's basically different gauge blocks, I'm gonna call them, of different thicknesses that have some rare earth magnets on them. They fit perfectly on top of my 1, 2, 3 blocks, and that allows me to get a little bit of extra height and to get these things shimmed up on the front and back properly. So that's gonna work out perfectly. And what the instructions say to do is to start up here at the front, and you want to kind of leave it where it's on the outside like this. It doesn't fit up in there. You kind of have this little joint between the top and the bottom. And it says to just kind of tack it in there and work your way on back to the back and pulling it in. We're not welding it solid at this point. We're just kind of putting some tacks in there to get it held in place. We will weld it after we get everything positioned. So let me get this out of the way, and we'll start tacking this in place. I think we're pretty well set up here. I did come in here with a wire wheel and an ankle grinder and just kind of clean up the edges so that I don't have any rust or anything right here in the area that I'm welding. I've got this kind of sitting in here just like it shows. I want to leave an open corner joint around this, and I also used one of my squares here, also from Fireball Tool, and that's just being used to keep the side nice and square. I'm going to come in here and tack this in a couple places. And we're going to go on. I'm going to be using my Lincoln Power Mig 210 to do the welding today. We're just going to start with a couple of tacks right here on the front. Just continuing on, I moved my square down a little bit. We're just tacking things in place here. And that is probably good enough for this side. We'll do the same thing with the other side over there. Got this side set up just like before. My square in here, we got it positioned in place. All we got to do is tack it. So one more time here. And with that, I think we're ready to go to the next step, which is to put this bottle base in here, and it just kind of slides back into that joint. But before I do, I am going to take my wire wheel and just again clean this up, make sure we're not welding any rust in here. And that is right where she goes. So we will weld all this together, tack it in real quick. Next up here, we got an axle bracket that's going to fit up underneath this. This just kind of gives some support. There's two wheels that mount on this, and there's some slots in the bottom here. I'm just going to lift this up, and we'll drop it back down on top of it. And I got two holes that my axles go through, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually stick these in there just temporarily to make sure that they are properly aligned, like such. There we go. And then I need to weld that in place. Let's see, it just says to tack it right now, so we'll just tack it in place. We're on step 4 now, which is welding the base up, and it's telling us that we want to completely weld up these seams on either sides, completely weld across here, pretty much all the places that the sheet metal is joining up here, to weld it completely on this bar across the bottom. They want to do some stitch welding on it, so I'm going to get in here and see if I can't put some beads down. spend a little bit of time blending in all these welds just to make them look nice. And to do that, I just use a flap wheel. If you haven't seen these before, these are just little flaps of sandpaper that goes on a angle grinding disc. And that one, of course, has been used pretty good. But you can just come in here, and it's not as aggressive as a grinding wheel, but it will take those welds down and blend them in real nicely. So I'm happy with how that looks, and we're ready to move on to the next step. So the next step on this is to put these rails on here. There's 2 sets of rails that get welded in, and if you notice, there are 4 holes that these fit down into on the bottom piece. And the instructions say you want to weld these into those holes where they are flush with the bottom of the hole. So the way I'm going about doing this is I got those 1, 2, 3 blocks that I've been using for setup already, and I put on top of those some of the shims that I have from Fireball Tools to get it up a little bit higher. And I've got this piece sitting on 4 of those, and each one of those blocks is directly up underneath one of those holes. And what that does for me is it gives me a little platform that's flush with the bottom of the hole. So that's just sitting on there. And then I'm going to take a square here, one of my squares from Fireball Tools. I will come in here and put that right up next to it. And now I can tack those in place, and they should be nice and square, and they should be at the same height because the bottoms are all at the same level. So let me get my welder fired back up, and we'll get those tacked together. Make sure we're good and square here. We are. I think that's going to be fine. And now we'll do the same thing for the other side here. I'll just hold it up in place and just verifying everything looks, tops look at the same level. And let me get my welder here. We'll go ahead and tack these in place as well. Those will get welded solid later on, but we want to have a little bit of flex in these to get everything else lined up. So let me see what's next here, and we'll be right back. The next step is to weld these little cross rails in here. I've got one on the front and the back, and they just come in here. This is going to kind of give me a shelf for one of my welders to sit on. We'll be putting a platform on it later on for that welder to sit on. Now, I wanted this to be 9 inches up from the bottom, and they need to be the same height. They need to be parallel to one another. And to do this, I decided I needed some spacers in here to kind of keep everything nice and straight and parallel. So I grabbed these little adjustable squares that I've got from Fireball Tool. Great little piece to have in the shop. These are 8 inches tall when you square them up. And then on top of that, again, I use some of my shims from my Fireball Tool shim kit. This is a 1-inch shim. So we are exactly 9 inches up from the base. And we will tack this in place, come over to the other side, use the same setup, tack it on this side, and everything should be nice and square and parallel. That is the goal here. So. The next piece to go on is going to be this bottle bracket. This is just going to mount to the back of the rails here, and like such. and it goes really just kind of just below this bend. And if you look, we've got this platform back here. This is where my bottles are going to sit. I got 2 bottles, one for the TIG and one for the MIG. And this has got the little indentions here for the bottle to rest in. The big important thing when you're putting this piece on is you want to make sure you orient it in the right place. You got these slots. These are for chains. You want the circle to be at the top. That's where you can get your chain in there to drop down. So I'm just going to kind of hold this in place and tack it in. So let me get my welder. Now we're getting ready to weld on the little platforms that the machines are going to sit on, and these just kind of fit right across here. There's one for the front and back on the bottom and the top, and we need to get these spaced right. I'm going to put the back one in first because we're going to get it all the way kind of up into this corner as far back as it'll go, and then we will measure up and figure out where the front one needs to go. So let's go ahead and tack that in place. Now there's a little bracket that fits down in these holes here. We're going to weld those in place in a minute. I want to get this welded in good first. But I measured my machine, and it's about 19 inches from front to back. I'm going to give myself a little bit of room. We're going to make it 20 inches, kind of to the back of that, or to the front of that shelf piece there. So let me go ahead and tack this in place. And I think I'm going to measure from the front of these just to make sure that's square. Let's see, that is about 2 1/4 inches. And that's pretty good right there. So let me tack those in place. I think before I weld in this little upright bracket, I want to weld everything in good where I have good access before that gets in my way. So let me go ahead and just weld these in place. She's really starting to take shape now. I've got my platform for the bottom welder in. I went ahead and welded in the rails that kind of captured in place. Did the same thing on the top, got the one for the top unit all welded in as well. And next thing we want to do on this is there's some hooks. Let's see, here's one right here that we can weld in here. These are just for holding cords and things like that, winding up cords and what have you on and letting them hang on the machine. So I'm going to be welding some of these in place. They just kind of go like such, and get those in place as well. Just going to kind of hold this in place and stack it. Make sure everything's nice and straight. It is. And I think I can go ahead and weld that in place now. Guys, I think I have all my welding done here. I've got all these little brackets mounted up on here. These are just, again, for hose hangers and cords and what have you. Got several in several different places. This piece here is for the foot pedal for the TIG unit. It just fits right down in there. Got a nice place to keep it stored and out of the way. And that is all of the welding, all the pieces that go on here. The only thing that is really left to do is to put the wheels on. I've got some casters that go up on the front of this that allow this to, you know, rotate around and what have you. And then there are some wheels here that go on little axles in the back up under the tank, a little bit heavier duty to roll on as well. I am going to wait to put these on because I am going to send this off, I think I said at the beginning of the video, and have this powder coated. So there's a place here not too far from me that does powder coating. They will take this, they will completely sandblast it, clean it up, get all the rust, everything that's on it off. They will powder coat it, and basically I want to send it to it just like it is. And then when I get it back, I can put these last pieces on because we don't want to powder coat the wheels, obviously. So that is my game plan here. And I'm excited to have this thing together. I'm be real excited once we get it back from powder coating and I can get it set up. And I will come back and do a follow-up little episode once we get it all finished up so you can really kind of see it in action, see it in its glory. And as far as the powder coating goes, guys, I like powder coating. It's really durable. It's a little bit more expensive than just painting it. I could sit here and clean this thing up with a wire wheel or what have you, or cleaned it up even before I started, and then after everything's welded up, just come in here and shoot it with some, you know, rattle can paint or whatever. It'd have been fine, but I really like the powder coating. I just think it's more durable and lasts longer. So that's the route that I am choosing to go on this. You can do yours if you decide to do one, however you like. But with that, that is going to be a wrap on this episode. This project, I probably got about 4 hours of assembly time here, and that is with me shooting video. If I wasn't shooting video, I could have probably done this a lot faster, but of course, anytime you add the video component to things, it just slows everything down. If you're interested in one of these carts, go check out ZT Fabrication. They've got these things configured for all kinds of different welding outfits. So the one I've got mine set up for is the Lincoln Garage Pack, which is the Power Mig 210 MP and the TIG 200 square wave. So it's two different units. They pretty much have the same form factor. One will sit on the bottom shelf, one will sit on the top shelf, and all is good. So, and like I said, they have these configured for other things. Their website, even though it's ZT Fabrication, it's allacart.com is their website. It's ALL-A-CART.com. I got a down here below where you can see it, and they make a very good product. Paul over there, they design these things extremely well, and anyway, I think I'm going to really enjoy mine. I've seen other people who have had these. I've actually seen these carts in person before I decided to purchase one myself. So with that, guys, that is going to be a wrap. As always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. A thumbs up appreciated, as are comments. And guys, we'll catch you on the next video.